After the end, exterior space night, the three sisters of the Orion Belt shine brightly in the night skies. Suddenly, a nebula surrounds Mintaka, the closest star to Earth. Moments later, a supernova explodes. Then a vortex swirls, forming into a wormhole, traveling in light speed towards planet Earth. The skies over the planet become like a huge flame of light. Exterior, Red Rock, Sedona, Arizona night. Dozens of fragile bodies of alien entities, willowy and slender, whose skin is radiant white, almost transparent, fall over the red rocks of Sedona, Arizona. They are unconscious, almost lifeless. Moments later, flying vehicles land over the mountains. Human pilots in white spacesuits step out and start carrying the dying aliens on board. Prime Minister Elaine Whitman, 25, reddish curls, blue eyes, and prominent chin, steps out of her flying car and oversees the rescue mission. She leans down and checks the alien newcomers. She turns to the pilot in command.
Captain, please handle them with extra care. They may be the sole survivors of the Mintaka explosion.
It's a miracle they managed to land here after the entire Orion Belt seems to be in flames.
I believe they came through the wormholes between the worlds.
We had more life-saving containers on the vehicles.
I ordered to prepare a couple of 100 containers at the main recovery lab, so please, hurry up there.
The last rescued entities are loaded on the vehicles that take off immediately. Elaine steps into her flying car and follows them. Exterior, recovery lab premises, continuous. The flying vehicles land on the recovery lab's grounds. Cautiously and sensitively, the pilots carry the Mintaka refugees into the lab. Interior, recovery lab, continuous. The pilots hand over the fragile bodies to the nurses and attendants, who place them in recovery glass containers. They attach an IV and respiratory masks to the feeble entities and seal the containers. Prime Minister Elaine steps into the lab and scans the containers. She stops by one with an exquisite female Mintaka entity whose outlines are so vague she seemed almost ethereal. Magnetized by her angelic features and afraid she was going to dissipate, Elaine calls out,
Nurse Ginny, please.
Nurse Ginny approaches. Elaine points out at the Mintaka entity.
This one is going to dissipate altogether. Feed her more, quickly.
Nurse Ginny moves fast to fetch food substance. For a second, the pretty Mintaki opens her eyes, which lock with Elaine's for a long moment. Elaine seems as if she wears her heart on her sleeve. The Mintaka beauty smiles at her faintly. At this minute, Elaine hears the familiar marching sound of the Enkidos. They wear golden helmets on slightly elongated skulls. Their faces are of greenish lizard-like skin with two slit pupils of the eyes that keep opening and closing while rhythmically flashing yellow and black beams. Another slit marks the mouth, above which are the sunken nostrils, stretching in and out as they breathe. The group is led by Major General Enlil, an impressive entity towering above all. Elaine walks towards Enlil and his entourage, who step into the lab.
Brother Enlil, what brings you here?
Enlil looks displeased.
We heard about the rescue operation. You should have consulted us. We could help.
I'm sorry, brother, but we didn't want to bother you.
I'm afraid their chance of survival is quite low.
I hope we can save as many as possible. Some show signs of life already.
What do you plan to do with them if they survive?
They may need a long period of rehabilitation. A few hundred families have volunteered to host some of them.
Perhaps it would be easier to supervise their recovery if we gather all of them in a sort of camp.
I'm not sure. Personal care by humans may advance their recovery and their integration into human society.
Well, I think it's too dangerous. Who knows what's on their minds?
They look so fragile and pure. They can't be of any harm.
Well, let me know how it works out, and if you need any help. Meanwhile, I suggest a couple of my security guys will be stationed here.
I don't think it's necessary, actually. The medical team is doing a great job here.
I insist.
He gestures at two of his guards, who place themselves at the lab's door. Elaine looks resentful, but says nothing. Enlil and his company leave. Exterior, Elaine's residential tower, Carson City, Nevada day. A tower comprising of two pyramid-shaped elements built on top of one another so that their pointed edges connect at the center. Interior, Elaine's bedroom, continuous. We climb to the second floor of the 3-story penthouse to Elaine's bedroom. At the center, on a cocoon-like bed, covered with white, unadorned linen, Elaine is fast asleep. First rays of sunlight enter the unveiled windows. Robot handmaid Sophia knocks softly and then enters the room with a breakfast tray.
Good morning, Madam Prime Minister.
Elaine opens her eyes, and as she tries to sit up, still sleepy, the display worn around her eye area starts flashing.
Thank you, Sophie.
She motions Sophia to place the tray at the bedside table and presses the gel-type phone adhered to her palm skin. The handmaid quits. Elaine turns her palm upward to receive the message. A holographic projection of the recovery lab appears before her eyes. She flips her hand outward to send a message.
Wait, let me connect to the satellite.
She puts on a white silk negligee and runs barefoot to the elevator. Interior, Elaine's office space, 3rd floor, continuous. An attic space housing a home office with state-of-the-art communication devices that include an entire wall of touchscreen set in motion by oxygen-activated liquid crystals. Elaine hurries in, crashes before the touchscreen, and lifts off the cap to start the communication. A picture of Nurse Ginny, dressed in white, appears on screen.
I'm sorry, Madam Prime Minister. Look.
The focus moves to the containers with the Mintaka refugees. Most of them seem lifeless with their IV and respiratory tubes disconnected. Just a few still look alive, their eyes opened in bewilderment.
Oh my god, how did this happen? I thought we had Enlil's security guards watch over the poor creatures.
Sorry, ma'am, but they disappeared. We haven't seen them this morning.
No!
She covers her face with her hands. After a beat, she asks in a shaken voice,
Do you have any idea how many are still alive?
I believe just a few dozens. Some are still in critical condition and may pass away within the next few hours. We're doing our best to keep them alive.
Okay, stay put. I'm coming over. And please send messages to all the volunteering families. We need to move the survivors to private homes right away.
Interior recovery lab later. Elaine rushes in madly. A couple of doctors, nurses Ginny and Claire, and a couple of paramedics wait for her by the containers, sad-looking and confused. Nurse Claire approaches her.
We are so sorry, ma'am. The Enkidos security guards assured us they were in charge, and we left around 1 a.m. We came back about 5, and this is what we found.
Nurse Claire points at the containers. She ushers Elaine to the patient's area. Elaine passes from one container to another. Most of the Mintaka entities are dead. However, here and there she sees some signs of life. She reaches the container with the angelic female beauty she was taken up with the day before. When she realizes she is still alive, she breathes in relief. Elaine kneels down and puts her hands on the glass cover of the container. She points at herself and mouths, Elaine. The lady in the container smiles at her. She mouths back, Nia. Elaine repeats loudly.
Nia?
Nia nods and crosses her hands on her chest. Elaine does the same while tears roll down her cheeks. After a few seconds, she recuperates. She rises and continues her inspection tour of the patient's containers. She turns to the medical staff.
Have you contacted the families who expressed their desire to host the Mintaka refugees?
We have, ma'am.
Contact them again. Tell them they must come here at once. We must execute the entire evacuation operation in secret tonight.
Should we inform Major Enlil?
I'll do that. As of now, we must pretend as if most of the refugees died on their own.
Ma'am, it looks like a sabotage to me.
We don't know what really happened, so we can't jump into conclusions. We'll investigate the event thoroughly, but meanwhile, not a word to anyone.
The staff nods. Elaine points at Nia's container.
I'll take this one to my house. Please prepare a stretcher and all the equipment necessary for home treatment.
Interior, Enlil's spaceship day. A giant pyramid-shaped spaceship with incredibly sterile interiors packed with consoles, wires, ducts, and electronic equipment. The pristine corridors, groovy, minimalistic furniture, and view screens are, however, all decorated with gold. The only art object is a gold sculpture of King Anu. The 2 security guards, Enlil stationed at the recovery lab, step along the corridors as the automatic doors open to lead them to Enlil's chamber. Interior, Enlil's chamber, continuous. Enlil sits upright on a gold-plated chair. His bald head shines at the reflection of the gold everywhere. The security guards approach him and bow.
Mission accomplished, sire.
They're all dead?
We believe so, General.
There may be a few from survivors, though.
Oh, how come? Couldn't you eliminate them all?
We disconnected all of their life-supporting tubes, but we had to hurry. We might have missed a few.
Not too many, I assure you.
Has anyone seen you?
We don't think so. We made sure to disconnect the surveillance cameras and managed to quit the premises before dawn.
Still, there may be questioning as to your disappearance.
We can always make an excuse.
I'm afraid I'll have to keep you in custody in case there are questions.